Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the incredibly long overdue 2020 update for the Story Surgery channel. I want to start off by just saying, real quick, my bad. This update was supposed to happen several times over the course of the year. Every time I would sit down to plan out what I was going to say for this update, or every time I sat down to record this update, another fun life event would happen that would stop me from dedicating any time towards it. So now, here we are, all the way in December, and we're now getting around to making this update. This year has been an actual constant reminder that the universe really does have the ability to just crush us at any given moment in time. To give you an idea of all of the things that have happened in the last 265-ish days, let me do a brief rundown. So, I released my Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Story Surgery video on March 16th of 2020. 2 days after that video went live, I had somebody in my work test positive for COVID-19. 2 days after I published the video, my job location shut down in-person operations and the world went all sorts of bonkers. I worked remotely from March 18th to June 15th, a time span of 89 days. Within this time frame, I did not have any kind of free time to work on any of my own personal projects, Story Surgery included. I was still able to workshop stuff for videos, but I didn't have several hours at a time to sit down and record and draw and make the actual Story Surgery videos. My full-time job is a multimedia producer for a local business, wherein I manage the website, make commercials for television broadcast and online distribution, as well as supply my illustration abilities for promotion and graphic design. While everything was shifting into an online-focused format, it meant that I was working around the clock. Not only did that include managing the website from home or some other location that was not my actual place of work, it also meant coming up with writing, storyboarding, filming, editing, and sending out commercials for television while I was sat in the middle of my living room. It was in this time frame as well that I also started to do more online commissioning work for people who were now shifting into being more at home. Therefore, they were driving more into the streaming side of things than they were before, meaning another part of my free time was now being dedicated to something else entirely. When I returned physically to work on June 15th, the amount of online focused work was still at play. While we were still back in our actual physical location, a lot of customers still weren't super comfortable going to the store just yet. And then 2020 decided to add one more nice little fun level of interest, because then the wildfires of the west coast of the United States started happening, and that got really scary. Then a wildfire started in my part of the state that was 230 miles away, and it got a little scarier. Then winds of 50 miles per hour blew all of that smoke over to my side of the state in the single course of a day. The sky turned orange and the sun turned red, and it got a little scarier. Then a wildfire started in the town that I worked in, which is next to the town that I lived in, and it got even more scary. Then the fire started to crawl towards my town in a way that we all were getting emails and phone calls from local fire departments with the message of be ready to leave, and things started to reach a mental tipping point. It was like this for about a week and a half before the fire became completely contained, and we all figuratively and literally took a breath of fresh air. There have been a handful of other small inconveniences and scenarios that keep popping up to make this year even more fun and tedious. Seriously, I wrote the majority of this update last month on my phone while sitting in a metal fold-out chair in the middle of an auditorium waiting to either be selected or excused from jury duty. Because, you know, let's add going to jury duty for the first time ever to EPZ's plate of things to do, because this is fine, because we're in the middle of a global situation. The selection service was in a place that was different to the location. It was in a building across the street that didn't have Wi-Fi, decent cellular reception, so for 7 hours a day, I not only was in a chair surrounded by people equally spaced out, all in the same situation, I was in a warehouse with industrial-grade circulating fans. How bad was it? It was this loud. I've been the only one in this room for the last 2.5 hours! And I was sitting in the middle of the room, the furthest away from said fans I could possibly be. And now Christmas is coming down the track like a bullet train. Work has gotten a little bit more strenuous, as the holidays are going to be a little different this year, and a lot of us are just kind of having to play this by ear. So yeah, that was the last couple of months. Nothing we can do about it now but keep moving forward. I mean, I would like for
for the universe to stop placing so many speed bumps on the road that we're all traveling on, my mental suspension is starting to become a little chewed up, as I'm sure a lot of yours are as well. Animal Crossing definitely helped. Quite a lot, actually. Granted, I've been playing Animal Crossing since the GameCube, and it's always kind of been my own personal mental decompression game, so to have New Horizons drop right as everything was getting really crazy was absolutely a lifesaver. It also was just a lot of fun just messing around with friends that I've had since forever. I also got to make some fun videos that I shared around the internet. Funnily enough, while I was letting this video render out, I decided to throw a little video together of an epiphany that I had in Animal Crossing, and I decided to post it on Reddit just for, giggles. I was not expecting it to do as well as it did over on Reddit, and I'm really happy that it was able to give some people some positivity. I wasn't expecting all of that to happen, but that was a neat experience. It definitely was really trippy seeing that the artist whose song I used, being Gloria Tells, and the song I Got What You Want, people ended up finding the official lyrical version on YouTube and left comments about finding out this song because of the video I did on Reddit. Gloria's Instagram then also had comments left about people finding the song through the Reddit posts that I did. The thing that was definitely the part that freaked everybody out was when all of a sudden I appeared on a Screen Rant article about this. That was a unique experience, to say the very least. So yeah, if there's anybody from Reddit who managed to find this channel because of that Animal Crossing video I did, hi, welcome. This is Story Surgery. I talk about storytelling and do rewrites and stuff like that, all while having a conversation with the community. So, hi, thanks for stopping by. Okay, in all seriousness, we've got the life update out of the way. Let's go ahead and move on to the actual channel update. So, as of me recording this particular line of dialogue, I am happy to report that we are currently sitting at 993 subscribers for the Story Surgery channel. Huh? What do you mean update the feed? Hold on a second. Okay, never mind. We just passed 1,000 subscribers. Oh, kidoki then. Where the heck did y'all come from? Like, massive kudos and thank yous to everybody who shared my videos on their own social media platforms. I'm really happy that the power of word of mouth is enough to, reach so many more people, and I'm just glad that you guys are along for the ride. So, yeah, thank you for sharing my videos around, and here's hoping we get to meet more people along the way. I want to touch on this one a little bit more in depth just so that people can at least understand why sometimes I reply to something and sometimes I don't. I do my very best to try to get back and reply to comments and conversations, but with all of the days managing to get away from me, some of the comments and conversations kind of get buried because sometimes YouTube decides to deliver notifications for comments in a really awkward way. I'm serious. Sometimes YouTube will give me a notification being like, hey, so-and-so has left a comment on your video, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, thank you for letting me know, and then I click on it and it doesn't take me anywhere. In those instances, I had to sleuth out that essentially what's happening is that the comment that person made actually deleted it, but the notification stays stagnantly in your notification box. There are times where I'll get notifications where somebody left a really interesting start of an idea, because the notification will at least let me read the first couple of words of whatever it is that they said, but when I click on it, it just doesn't take me anywhere. It just takes me to the video without highlighting anything. The other fun one is when somebody will reply to a comment on the channel or on the video, and sometimes it gives me the notification and sometimes it doesn't. I've actually walked into people having full-on conversations in my comment section on a particular video and I had no idea what was going on. And in other times they'll let me know about every single time somebody makes a comment on somebody else's comment. The weird inconsistencies of YouTube's comment system is just such a bonkers thing in my opinion. I appreciate that it's a large reaching thing and I appreciate that it has allowed people to have said conversations, but consistency would be nice. But I digress. I want to take this moment to thank every single one of you who have left comments on any of my videos. Being able to talk shop with people and discuss their own story ideas is just such a wonderful way to have passed the time throughout all of this craziness. And I'm also very thankful of those people who also decided to leave me critiques on the videos that I've done so far. Some of them ranging from simple one-off, here's this idea, thank you very much, to whole odysseys of back and forward conversational subject matter matter. I'm not kidding. The conversation I had with Desk Drawer on my Secret of Nim video ended up being over 16,000 words long between the two of us, and every single time I got a notification from this user, my heart skipped a beat and I was so excited to hear what they had to say. But let's talk about the immediate future for the channel, because while I haven't been able to make any videos as of late, I have been making headway on scripts and general ideas for things I want to do, so let's talk about them. Right off the bat, let's talk about what the actual next video on this channel is going to be. It's going to be a redone channel trailer that focuses on frequently asked questions.
While I already have a curated list of a bunch of questions I already planned on answering in this frequently asked questions video, feel free to leave a few more in the comments below. If it ain't one that I've already planned on answering, it would be interesting to be able to tack on a few more that are fresh and off the cuff. Shortly after that are going to be 2 videos that I'm actually redoing from the ground up, one of them being about the game Night in the Woods, as I felt I tiptoed too heavily around the actual story of that game to not spoil anything, and now I want to showcase how it manages to pull influences from classic works of eldritch horror. The other video is a redone version of my video on Summer Wars. That video got blocked into oblivion worldwide by the Nippon Television Network Corporation, and there was no salvaging it in the way in its current state, so just redoing it was the better overall option. After that, there will be about 4 different videos that will be less about reworking something and more about talking story structures from games and shows that manage to do it in a very particular way in terms of its presentation and conceptual narrative constructions. One of the videos is very personal to me, as it's talking about my childhood favorite game series, Klonoa. The video itself will be talking about how the writers of this particular series managed to use emotion as the antagonistic force in a very interesting and complex way. Another video is actually about a more recent video game series that has become one of my favorites, being the Ori video game series. The first game being Ori and the Blind Forest, and its sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. That video in and of itself is going to be more about how sometimes it's simplistic stories that manage to carry a lot more weight than you give them credit for. Just because something is very simplistic in its narrative structure does not necessarily mean that it is weak in that department. I want to be able to talk and discuss about how the very simplistic narrative structure of both of the Ori games allows their story to be very simplistic and easy to digest, but that in and of itself is what makes the story of both of the Ori games so impactful and personal. Another video that I want to do is about the Cartoon Network original series, Infinity Train. I basically just want to make a video about that one, talking about how conceptually it's a narrative telling goldmine, and not nearly enough people either watch it or know about it, and that seriously needs to change. And the other video that I want to do is about the Canadian-made Netflix original series, Anne with an E. I want to talk about the nature of doing classical forms of literature adapted into a new form media, and how I personally think Anne with an E is a phenomenal show in how it manages to not only adapt every single aspect of the original novels, but also manage to turn it into a fantastic coming-of-age story that has huge implications on how life is perceived. And I genuinely think that it's a show that more people, young and old, should definitely look into. These are videos that I've been wanting to make for quite some time, and I feel like I kind of need them after this crummy year because I kind of just want to be able to talk about some things that I like. It's also high time that I get the podcasts rolling. I've been meaning to get them going throughout lockdown, but because of scheduling for myself and other people, it's just been a bit of a headache, so things are just wildly unpredictable. I'll go into a lot more depth when it comes to the channel trailer video, but I want to kind of clear something up now and just make sure that this is very much understood. There are going to be 2 variants of the podcast, the pre-op podcast and the post-op podcast. Simply put, pre-ops are about movies, games, shows, or books that are coming out soon and discussing expectations or even hopes that we have for these particular stories when they eventually come around. Post-ops are going to be about things that we had recently seen and giving our perspectives of how the story were presented, or even talking about how well or unwell we thought they actually landed with their particular elements that they were going for. Maybe even potentially spitballing ideas of how we think it could have been done differently. These podcasts are going to be far more conversational with the guests in question, more laid back and less about focusing on heavy editing.
After that, I will be shifting back to the meat and potatoes of this channel, the surgery videos.
As it stands right now, there are 4 surgery videos currently being worked on, one of them being about the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot film, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Realistically, the next surgery video is most likely going to be about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or Avatar: The Last Airbender because both of those instances, the proposed changes are smaller in scale. One is about the slight shifts in narrative, while the other is about relocating an element that was brought into the story at a different time in a way that makes more sense for its severity and its impact. After that will come the next big story surgery video where I will be tackling the Star Wars sequel trilogy, being The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. Now, granted, that one's still a bit of a journey away, as it's currently 13 pages of just bullet point lists that currently reaches until about halfway through The Last Jedi. That one might come a little later. I don't know. The schedule's gone to all sorts of heck because of this year. I will say it now. You can hold me to it. I've said it multiple times in replying to comments, but I will at least put a voice to it. It has been requested enough. It has been asked for. Yes, I will be returning to Sonic 06. That video is going to be very, very different from anything I've done previously. It's going to be made with the intent of picking up exactly where the previous video left off. I don't want to force anyone to sit through a long-winded retreat of everything that I just said in the previous video. Be advised, the second part of Sonic 06 is going to get right to the point. There might be a 60-second recap, but that's probably going to be it. In the last couple of months, I've gotten a lot of requests to do certain videos or tackle certain stories from various kinds of media. Just like the podcast situation, I'll dive that into a little bit more detail in my frequently asked questions video, but I'll give a brief answer here. If I am requested something or suggested that I look at something, I will consider doing a video on it. However, please keep in mind that if you've requested something that I either haven't watched or finished watching or playing or reading, the likelihood of that video coming around is probably going to take a while. Notable examples of this would be the 8th and final season of Game of Thrones and The Last of Us Part 2. I have not caught up with Game of Thrones. It arrived on the scene when I was like halfway through my senior year of high school, and it became a huge sensation while I was in the middle of my college education. At the time, I didn't have a lot of time to watch shows. In order to do a video on the last season, I would need to finish the series, something I, given everything else thrown at the planet at the moment, just haven't had a lot of time to do anyway. That story is similar with The Last of Us Part 2. I haven't got around to playing it or watching somebody else do a playthrough of it. Pair that with the whole air of The Last of Us Part 2 being a breeding ground of arguments versus having an actual discussion, and the want to make that video at the time of the game's release was not really high on the priority list. I didn't want people flocking to the comments to voice their opinion that would only incite a conflict about something I wasn't super keen on. I want to be able to look at things objectively, only at their story, and not be guided or influenced by the opinions of other people to say whether something is brilliant or the worst thing on the planet. So with that one in particular, I wanted to make sure that I didn't do it right as the bandwagon pulled into the station. I kind of wanted that one to wait a little while longer before I did any deep dive reworking for that one. So there you go. There's the update in a nutshell. Things are still going, things are still planned, and things are still moving forward, albeit in a weird sort of diagonal but still kind of forward momentum? Question mark? Once again, let me reiterate. I thank every single one of you for maintaining such wonderful conversations with everybody, for sharing around the videos that you found worth sharing, and most importantly to the new people who have managed to follow us on this journey forward. This year has absolutely brought us to our breaking point on multiple occasions, but something that I'm happy to report is that our love for storytelling manages to persevere, in the hopes that we become better writers, better crafters, and better storytellers. I'm EPZ379, and I'll see you for the next operation.